It's a remnant of the ancient Khmer's engineering mastery that allowed them to wear their yearly droughts. The West Barai was part of a hugely complex system of canals and reservoirs that fed into the city of Angkor and its rice fields. The result was a quadrupling of the grain harvest, which was transported along canals and rivers to the furthest corners of the empire.
The result was food security and a surplus of rice for trade, which became the economic foundation of Angkor and propelled the empire into greatness. And propelled the empire into greatness. And propelled the empire into greatness.
But to extend their influence further,
Propelled the empire
but to extend their influence further, direct means to transport Angkor's roads. This is a 1,000-year-old pathway. To learn how it was built to survive so many centuries, I'm joining a team of builders, led by Sopyap An.
ធ្វើអាចត្រាយសាកល្បងបានបន្តិច
Okay.
ពីធ្វើអាចធ្វើតាមគាត់សម្លេងអូខេសូមបុកឲ្យខ្លាំងជាងនេះបន្តិចដើម្បីប្រើសាច់ដុំ
This technique is known as soil compacting and was used by the Khmer to build their roads and temple foundations.
អញ្ចឹងកាលណាសម្លេងដីនឹងហាប់គឺថាសម្លេងហ្នឹងវាហាប់នេះដើម្បីឲ្យដីហ្នឹងវាងាយឆាប់ហាប់បានល្អការសម្លេងដែលយើងបុកហ្នឹងវានឹងណែនវាលាន់សម្លេងយ៉ាងណែនដូចយើងបុកនៅលើថ្មអញ្ចឹង
Okay. So I have to keep pounding until I hear this brighter, more solid sound, right?
Good.
This technique allowed Angkor's roads to withstand the contraction and expansion of the soil during the dry and wet seasons.
It's incredible how the simple technique of compacting sand can build a foundation that lasts for millennia. The Khmer relied on basic tools and sensory techniques to build a vast network of roads across the entire region, so different from the technologies we rely on today.
By the 11th century, Angkor's kings had built an extensive network of roads, some of which are still used today.
I'm traveling on a dirt road on this charming ox cart, which has been used for about a minute here. The road is as straight as an arrow, just like the great Roman roads in Europe. I can see endless rice fields, water buffaloes, and it must have looked just like this in the Angkor period. This was the super highway of that time. People travel like this for days. It's quite comfortable now, but to be honest, I don't know how I'd feel after a few days.
Six main arteries stretched for over 1,000 kilometers. To the west, to modern Thailand, an important salt-producing region. To the north, to the access point of the Mekong River, where rice and fish were traded with neighboring kingdoms. And east, to the old capital, an important center of learning. This network of roads helped to extend Angkor's political power and cultural influence across the region. But to become a true regional powerhouse, the Angkor Empire first needed to overcome the largest annual flood event brought about by Southeast Asia's largest river. I want to know how the ancient Khmer adapted to survive in their environment. Near the ancient capital of Angkor lies Southeast Asia's largest body of fresh water, Tonle Sap Lake. I'm helping fisherman Thai to check his nets and bring in his catch.
The net is really fine, so the fish gets really caught into it, and you have to gently tug it out because it also has really sharp fins on the side. So what would you consider a good catch?
5 គីឡូ 1 គីឡូ បើយើងដាក់មកយកវាភ្លឺបានពេញមកនេះអត់ខ្យល់អត់អុយព្រឹកឡើងដោះទឹកធំត្រីវាសម្បូរគឺព្រោះត្រីវាឡើងមកមានពីណាពីណីមកវាចេញមកយើងអ្នកកំពុងឃ្លាំងខឹមត្រីដើម្បីចិញ្ចឹមកាពៀគឺអាយុជីវិតយើងទៅនឹងនេះ
Every year, something amazing happens here.
យើងដាក់មកយកវាភ្លឺបានពេញមកនេះ
The monsoon floods the country and expands the lake to 5 times its normal size, flooding over 7,000 square kilometers. Then, in the dry season, the flow of water reverses and the lake empties back into the Mekong. This annual ebb and flow has seen the lake nicknamed the beating heart of Cambodia. I'm traveling along a river running out of the lake to the village of Kampong Kliang, which is built 15 meters off the ground. In the wet season, the lake would rise, taking the water to just below the level of these homes.
Just look at these. It's like a surreal fortress. I've never seen anything like it.
I want to see how its residents survive in such an extreme environment.
Oh my goodness. Look at this view.
Kim Hyang's family makes a living from shrimp.
So what is it like to live here?
រនៅនេះមិនទៅស្រួលទេល្អទឹកទន្លេវាក់ណាអូខែប្រាំងយ៉ាប់រੂខែភាសាយើងទឹកច្រើនយើងបើកលះដល់ទន្លេ
So your happiness is dependent on the water.
ចាខែភាសាសុវ័យចិត្ត
To build settlements and survive on such a lake show the resilience and ingenuity of the Khmer people.
It's awesome to see how people in this village have adapted to their environment by building houses so high up. It can be dry one season and then the next, completely submerged in so much water. It's unimaginable.
As the ancient Khmer thrived, they built a complex society. To find out how, I'm at a site built by Angkor's greatest king, Jayavarman VII. At its height, the temple of Priya Khan was the epicenter of ancient society. It was a place of learning, but also linked to administration. An inscription found here states that almost 100,000 public servants donated goods and services to the temple to ensure the smooth running of the empire. Polly is an archaeological architect who is overseeing the restoration of the temple.
នេះគឺជាការងារជួសជុលគ្រុឌនៅក្នុងប្រាសាទប្រខំនៅនេះក្រុមការងាររបស់យើងគឺកំពុងតែជួសជុលគ្រុឌរលំចុះក្រោមគឺសត្វនេះជាតំណាងសន្តិភាពគឺខ្ញុំពេញចិត្តណាស់រូបចម្លាក់នេះ
Garudas are mythical bird-like creatures popular in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology. 72 of these winged guardians protect these sacred grounds. Jayavarman VII, who built this temple, came into power over a divided empire and used it as a center of administration to reunite his people and restore order across his lands. Polly lets me have a go at carving my own piece of Angkor history.
យកនេះហើយមើលរៀងដែលណានេះជ្រុងមិនជ្រុងអញ្ចឹងមើលដែលវាខ្ពស់ទៅដាប់ចេញអញ្ចឹងយើងមើលតាមពីលើដល់ក្រោមអញ្ចឹងប៉ុន្តែរក្សាជ្រុងនេះយើងត្រូវប្រយ័ត្នតិច
Can I try?
Yeah.
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 I hope I don't break something. Like this?
Yeah.
You actually get quite good control. Yeah, this is a perfect tool. It's so peaceful here, it's hard to imagine that 800 years ago, it was a hive of activity. Scholars visiting from all over the region, local farmers paying their taxes, and officials making crucial decisions about matters of state. It's like a temple, university, and government ministry all rolled into one.
The ancient Khmer relied on its temples as gateways to manage its almost 1 million strong populace, under which the empire thrived. And the result was the building of one of the most iconic structures of all time. I'm exploring the rise of the Angkor Empire, and at last, my journey brings me here. The largest religious monument in the world, Angkor Wat. Built almost 900 years ago, the temple's design mimics the Hindu universe, with the 5 towers representing the peaks of Mount Meru, home of the Hindu gods, under which it's said King Suryavarman II was laid to rest in 1150.
I've been here so many times, but it just never ceases to move me in this very deep way.
Surrounding the temple is an enormous moat that symbolizes the Hindu sea of creation. But it also holds a secret that helped the structure withstand the cycle of flood and drought. To learn more, I'm speaking to archaeologist Sokti who has studied this feat of architecture for 20 years.
This moat is so beautiful and it is so huge. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes, you are right. Beautiful in landscape, but also they are practical. The moat as the mean to decrease the pressure push out from the heavy structure. Without this moat, Angkor Wat will collapse.
I find that so incredible. It just looks like this very beautiful lake, and you'd never imagine that it had this really important function.
But it wasn't just masterful engineering that made this mega structure possible.
We have enough population, enough economic, enough resource, and human capacity.
So all these things combine at the right time to create this incredible monument.
Yes.
Angkor Wat is an engineering masterpiece. It looks a part of a sacred Hindu temple, but there are also all these things going on which have helped realize this enormous structure. I would never have imagined that to build something so high, you needed to worry about the underground water table. But they were so good at managing and storing water that they found this very elegant design solution that also ticked the box of religious symbolism. It's pure genius.
But that just scratches the surface of this incredible structure. Inside the compound is further evidence of the ancient Khmer's artistic skill. Decorative stonework and vivid carvings that bring the past to life. Including the mighty king, Suryavarman II, in whose honor the temple was built.
He's seated on this grand throne with all these symbols of his kingship. Just look at him. This is really a very wealthy and powerful king.
Further down the corridor is another iconic scene that tells us something about the Angkor Empire of the day. Here is the Khmer army and their allies, heading into battle with their longtime enemy to the east, the Dai Viet.
It depicts all these kings on elephants from the satellite states surrounding Angkor. It emphasizes Suryavarman II's power, that he was able to muster all these forces from the states around him towards this attack against the Dai Viet.
These carvings are a testament to Angkor's might. But the majority of the carvings here aren't about the empire at all. Instead, they tell stories of Hindu cosmology that shed a light on the inner beliefs of its people.
Now, this is simply spectacular, possibly the most iconic bas-relief in Angkor Wat. This is a massive 49-meter heavenly tug-of-war between good and evil. Above, look at all these apsaras or celestial dancers springing out from the ocean.
There are more than 2,000 apsaras carved into the walls of Angkor Wat, images that have found new meaning in modern Cambodia. This apsara dance is a modern adaptation, inspired by the imagery found at Cambodia's most famous temple.
This is really stunning. It's as though the carvings have come to life. Wow. The joy is in observing the slightest movements, which speak volumes.
While the original dance is said to have begun in the 7th century, the closest we can come to it today is through these modern reimaginings. It's one of the most popular dances in Cambodia. I'm going to learn what all the movements mean.
It means sigh.
This is a sigh.
Yes, sigh.
Ja.
I'm sighing in pain. Oh, ow. This is crying.
Yes, cry. The
Like-
finger bend over.
I feel like a clumsy old bear among the apsaras.
ងើបឌីចឹងទៅក្រោយ
Go.
បែបនេះយើងហោះទៅ
This is
មិនដើរហោះ
Oh, this is flying.
yes, flying.
Oh,
Flying. You took it do it.
គេក៏ដូច
I think if they let go, I'm going to fall.
And after the angel's flight, it's time to come down.
ថយចឹងមកក្រោយហើយចឹងមកក្រោយហើយបបែកខ្លួនក៏ទៀងមកនេះទីណា
So this is arriving, the final pose. We've landed back to Earth. That was amazing.
Thank you
What I've learned is that it's very difficult.
បាមនេះមានសារៈសំខាន់ណាស់សម្រាប់ពួកខ្ញុំដោយសារពួកខ្ញុំគឺជាអ្នកដែលស្រឡាញ់វប្បធម៌និងចង់បន្តវេនទ្រទ្រង់សិល្បៈខ្មែរមិនចង់ឲ្យបាត់បង់
Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you
good.
អរគុណច្រើនចា៎
Thank you.
អរគុណ
What's so interesting is how important this was for modern Cambodians to create a national identity based on Angkor that everyone could rally behind.
By the 12th century, Angkor was a prosperous city with a thriving culture. And it was the rise of a new king with new ideas that pushed the empire to unprecedented heights. But he also set the stage for its ultimate downfall. I'm exploring the last chapter of the great Angkor Empire. In 1181, a new king took power called Jayavarman VII. He ordered more building projects than all of his predecessors combined, extending the road network further than ever before, and expanding the empire's territory as far as modern-day Myanmar, Vietnam, and the Malay Peninsula. Angkor was the uncontested superpower of Southeast Asia. I'm at the Bayon Temple, built by King Jayavarman VII.
Just look at the size of them.
It's famed for its over 200 stone faces, said to be the king's own likeness, frozen in eternity as the image of the Buddha. Julia Esteve, an expert of ancient Khmer religion, has a theory about the change of faith away from Hinduism, which has to do with a mystical sect.
Tantric Buddhism is a secret path that is very strongly populated with secrecy, magic, forbidden behavior to become enlightened while alive. So here, for example, we can see a male ascetic cutting his own fingers with a knife
Yes, I
here
can see that.
into the fire. This could be, yes, a very good illustration of these taboo behaviors that Tantric Buddhism is practicing.
These forbidden rituals were designed to reaffirm King Jayavarman VII's connection to the divine.
It attracts fear and also respect, and it gives extreme magical powers.
So he was playing with fire, but it helped him achieve this aura which no other king could manage before.
Yes.
Jayavarman VII built this magnificent temple with these faces, one of the most recognizable images of the Angkor Empire, in order to enhance his claim to power. The king put himself as a god of a new kind of state religion, full of rituals, mantras, and magic. It was a very clever tactical move, and it worked.
Thanks to his political move to embrace Tantric Buddhism, Jayavarman VII enjoyed a golden reign. But the move away from Hinduism had repercussions 100 years later. Hindu hardliners rebelled in the late 13th century, destroying the Buddhist temples of state and dividing the empire from within. It was then that a powerful enemy from the West made their move. In 1431, Angkor was attacked by a new force, the Kingdom of Ayutthaya. After a 7-month siege, Ayutthaya's army ransacked the city, taking close to 100,000 prisoners and several tons of gold. So came the sudden end of the great Angkor Empire. But new research is showing that this was the final blow in a long decline.
Many of the records throughout
Archaeologist Miriam Stark is looking back in time for clues about life here in the 13th century, the closing years of the Angkor Empire.
You take a trowel
Okay.
and you can scrape around the back here and around the front very gently and see if you can expose this.
Try not to break the shard.
That's right.
Promise.
Doing a good job there. So we think these are residential areas. We're finding all kinds of artifacts and materials that suggest household activity, cooking, eating. We have animal bones.
I see. So this is sort of domestic trash.
We like to say domestic debris. It sounds a little more polite. Yep. Now, why don't you stop for a minute and just gently with your hand wiggle it. And then you can look at it. It's beautiful.
It's just amazing to pull out something just from a shallow pit like this, which is so ancient.
Next, the shard is washed, and it's beginning to show itself for the first time in 800 years.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that looks fantastic.
So it has these wonderful mottled colors. You see green, you see browns. It's almost abstract.
Yeah, we call this a brown glaze.
Brown
So
glaze.
it's really high. Don't often find such large pieces like this. It's really special.
Archaeologist Alison Carter is piecing together these shards to build a picture in the Angkor Empire.
We start seeing a decline in the number of ceramics that we find, and that tells us that there are probably fewer people living in that area.
But this population decline didn't just come at the end of the empire in the 15th century, but much earlier than previously thought.
The decline of Angkor actually seems to be taking maybe a couple centuries. There's a lot of different factors that are part of that. Religious change and socio-political change and even climatic change.
So this is revealing that people were leaving Angkor way before the official end of the empire.
Right, exactly.
As ocean-going technology improved, maritime trade between China and India increased, pulling economic activity and people away from Angkor. With less people and money, the city's elaborate system of reservoirs and canals filled up with silt and became ineffective, leaving Angkor devastated by 2 mega droughts, each of which lasted decades. Unable to recover, Angkor was left to ruin, reclaimed by the jungle. But after its rediscovery, rain on the city's resources and bringing a whole new problem: litter. But its residents I'm joining Sophia, a local hotel worker who is volunteering to clean up the modern city of Siem Reap.
Straw. A lot of straws. Plastic spoons. Oh my God, a battery. It's quite fun to be out here and I love cleaning up. So this is really my kind of activity. What do you think about clean up projects like this?
I think we must do it every day and every week.